Hi everybody, and welcome to our next Loyalty Connect session, one of the ones I have been most excited about. For the next 30 minutes, we are going to be talking about what consumers want from a modern loyalty program. We have some brand new research hot off the press. We have surveyed 4,000 shoppers across the UK and the US, and we have lots of interesting insights that we can't wait to share with you. I'm also very excited to introduce my co-presenter, Patrick. Patrick, could you let us know who you are, what you do, and also which brand would you say you are most loyal to?
Oh gosh. So hello, I'm Patrick. I'm an applied behavioural scientist, which essentially means I take science of psychology and think about how to practically use it in the real world. So academically, I have a foot in academia. I've written a couple of books available in all good bookshops, and I've written some peer-reviewed papers on things like targeted nudging. But then I've kind of taken that insight and commercially been researching people and understanding how to influence their behaviour with it.
Amazing. Hopefully you're not analysing me as we do this.
Yes.
Is there a brand that stands out for you that you're loyal to?
Probably Nando's.
Yeah.
Both emotionally and behaviourally. It's, I'll say it's my son, but it's me really. It's just a great mix of healthy and indulgent, or you can pretend it's healthy at least.
Yeah, absolutely, and a nice atmosphere, good app-based programs, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Good choice. Fantastic. We will get stuck straight into our questions. If you have any questions that you'd like to pop in the chat, please feel free to do so. Our team is ready and waiting to answer them. So, one of the most exciting things for me about our consumer research, and this builds on a theme that we saw last year, but there is an increasing appetite for loyalty programs. Consumers actually want more and more loyalty programs. And in terms of the data, we've got actually 100% of the shoppers that we surveyed were members of at least one program, and that was 89% last year, so a nice increase. 79% are members of between 1 and 4 programs, again up from 69% last year. 59% say they are more likely to sign up to a loyalty program than they would have done 12 months ago. And 90% say that a loyalty program does influence their decision to repeat purchase from a brand. So these are, from our perspective, really, really positive stats. I'd love to know from you, what do you think is driving that increased appetite? Is it a shift in circumstance or economics, or is it psychology?
I think there's a mix of kind of push and pull factors. So first of all, loyalty programs are getting better, I think, more sophisticated, more fun and engaging as well. You know, Tesco Clubcard have this Tesco Unpacked they rolled out recently, where I found out I'm in the top 1% of buyers of cumin, apparently, in my area. I just love chili. That was really fun and engaging. So they're bringing in gamification, better analysis and usage of data. They're just getting smarter. There's also, I think, a social norm in a way that they're just becoming the default and everyone's doing them, and it's just kind of the done thing to do now. I mean, again, with Tesco, you don't really get the normal prices unless you have the club card, right? So it's just becoming the default more and more. But there are, I think, push factors as well, in that the cost of living and everything's getting more expensive, and so people are very keen to save money and be rewarded where they can. And also, you know, things are getting more chaotic and unpredictable and a little bit frightening, probably. I think most of us would agree. And there's a very predictable behavioral response to that. It's in lots of research. It's called terror management theory. But essentially, when things are scary or even uncertain, people tend to cling on to things. They go for defaults, they go for what they're familiar with, and they want to have relationships.
Makes a lot of sense. I think it's nice to see people looking for that connection.
Yeah.
And it's not just a purchase, it's now a bit more of something to be part of and participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. People are looking, I mean, let's not overstate the loyalty scheme, but they are looking for kind of purpose and connection and attachment. I think there is a good opportunity, at least on some level, for brands to provide that.
Absolutely, yeah. Great, thank you. The next set of stats actually surprised me a little bit, because I did sort of think that a lot of people sign up to a loyalty program and then they don't really ever look at it again. They perhaps sign up to get an introductory offer and don't engage regularly, but actually this is not the case. So on average, the consumers we surveyed are logging into their loyalty programs 10 times per month, and 13% are logging in every day, 58% once a week at least. So that's a high level of participation. 54% are checking their points balance once a week. 53% are checking their rewards once a week. It's only less than 2% that never log in again. So, as I say, that was a really pleasant surprise for me to see that they're not just signing up, but they're then really participating in the program over time. Does that surprise you? Do you what do you think is making people interact with those programs more?
I think probably they, as I said, are better now and more sophisticated, and for a habit to take place and for people to do things regularly, there need to be certain things in place like triggers, and so that would be a notification or an email or something, a reminder. There need to be some kind of reinforcement, and this is where people get rewards. And crucially as well, it needs to be really easy, so there needs to be as little friction as possible.
Yeah.
I think reward schemes are getting better and better at that, at being convenient, fast and easy, and integrating with other apps and services. Why wouldn't you really when it's so easy and you get a reward out of it? And we're also all kind of increasingly, I think, dopamine seeking, reward seeking, so we're more likely to, be looking for those little hits of joy that we get from seeing that we've got some kind of reward or points or something.
It's interesting. I think it's the lipstick effect.
Yeah.
Is it that when even when things are perhaps slightly tough, you still want to treat yourself to that one small thing, and perhaps knowing that you might have some points or you might have some rewards makes that one small thing feel a bit more achievable?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just in spite of things being tough, but actually because they're tough, people are looking more for escape and for treats and for anything as well that can elevate their status or express an identity.
And I think the VIP tiers in loyalty programs definitely plays into that. I think a lot of people are probably logging in to see, well, which tier am I in? How far am I from the next one? And what do I get when I get into the next one? What status is that going to afford me? What am I aspiring to?
Yeah. And that's, again, really excellent gamification that we're seeing, because it uses the completion bias, a bit like Pokemon, got to catch them all. You always feel like you've got to go to the next step.
Yeah, amazing. It's interesting what you said as well about them being easier to use. This research is so fresh, I haven't actually crunched all the numbers yet, but certainly last year we saw some really positive numbers around how easy people did find programs to use in this day and age.
Yeah.
We've really kind of turned a corner from it being quite clunky. I remember... to be honest, I still can't log into my Nectar account. I've given up on it. I now do shop at Tesco's because Nectar's just too difficult.
Really? Yeah.
So it's really great to see that everyday programs are that bit more accessible now.
Yeah, it's very important for behaviour change.
Yeah. Great. So one of the things in our research that I am most excited about, and we had our CEO on in another session to talk about this shift as well, we are seeing people move away from loyalty programs being purely discount-led and moving towards them being more of an experience-based thing, experiential rewards. So, for example, we talked through some lovely examples in another session, things like people offering invites to exclusive events in store or exclusive access to a meal with the founder of the brand, that kind of thing. So things that go a little bit beyond just a discount. So it's really nice to see that shift represented in our data as well. So 71% say that loyalty programs make them feel like valued customers. 55% say that they feel more emotionally connected if they are a loyalty program member. 88% say that discounts are important. I don't think that's surprising. I think discounts are always going to be part of any loyalty proposition. But what we do love to see is that 82% value free product rewards, 75% want early access to sales, 76% want big birthday perks as part of the loyalty program. And then we have things like priority access to back-in-stock items, priority returns, priority customer support, all these kind of great experience-led things. So I'd love to know, this is great from a retailer perspective. A lot of these things are more cost-effective to deliver than a discount. They hurt your margins less, fantastic. But what do you think is driving that shift from financial transactional benefits to experience-led ones? And do you think it's a long-term change or perhaps a short-term one?
Dishoom have a great example of this, where you can roll a dice, and if you get a 6 or whatever, you get a discount.
Oh, really?
And that's because that's experience and it's engaging and fun. It's better than just giving the equivalent discount. But as to your question, I think there could be a short-term element to it in that again, when times are chaotic and a little bit frightening and uncertain, people tend to look for escape and excitement and adventure. A bit like the eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die kind of attitude, where, you're just looking for an outlet and for a bit of escape. But I do think actually there's longer term things in play, probably because of technology. And there are two reasons, I think. One is status and identity expression. So it used to be that you could kind of communicate your identity and your status through material goods, but now it's very easy because of mass prestige items and sites like Vinted. For anyone really can buy material premium status signaling goods, whereas experiences are a bit harder to fake. So going to, I don't know, the Maldives or something is harder to fake than buying a Gucci trainers, for instance. So I think there's a status element, but probably the bigger thing is we're all kind of indoors on screens a lot more these days, especially since lockdown and all of the digital transformation of that. And the problem with that is we actually kind of thirst or hunger for experience and adventure. So in psychology, there's something called risk homeostasis, which suggests that we have a certain appetite and a need for risk. So, for example, something like in Germany, when they introduced seatbelts, people started driving a bit faster on average because they just had a certain appetite for risk.
Yeah.
And likewise, I think we all have a certain appetite for experience and adventure, and it's not being fulfilled because we're most of the time indoors and we're safe and we're on screens. And that's a huge opportunity for brands to fulfill that need and to create experiences.
Outside of the ordinary and the everyday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, life is increasingly, outside of headlines, of course, but our day-to-day life is increasingly kind of ordinary and flat, I think it's fair to say. So that's why you're seeing, for example, the Mayor of London said experiential is one of London's key economic pillars moving forward.
Interesting. And I guess, if you are having to tighten your belt slightly or you're not going out quite as much as you were before, then you are looking for those little moments of special in your day.
Yeah.
Just to pick up on something you referenced, the increase of platforms like Vinted. I'm super interested in this because we used to buy luxury goods as a status symbol. As you say, you would have a Gucci handbag. Now, somebody could be carrying a Gucci handbag, and if you ask them where they got it, they'd say vintage.
Yeah, all right.
People don't say the brand name anymore. They say, it's Gucci.
Yeah.
No, they say it's vintage. So it's an interesting dichotomy between wanting the product and the brand and the status, but then not actually admitting where it's from. I don't know if you have a
No, it's
point of view
interesting.
on that.
My wife gets clothes for our kids from Vinted all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's cheaper. I'm like, not if you do it 3 times a day. But I'm always, people are like, oh, your son's dressed nicely. And I'm like, oh, it's Vinted. And she's like, shh, don't tell people that.
It's Burberry. I think it's really fascinating. And I think we're seeing a lot of brands unlock new markets with this, really, because you wouldn't necessarily have seen a student in a very highly priced hoodie, for example, in the past, and now you do, and then other students see that student and they want it too.
Yes, yeah.
And then sooner or later, Vinted won't have what you want, so you'll go to the store and you'll pay full price for that item, and then you've unlocked a whole new demographic quite quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very interesting. More brands doing their own kind of archives and secondhand sales is something I think we'll see more of in the future. Fantastic. Next up, instant gratification is something I think we're all probably guilty of wanting. And it turns out it is important in a loyalty program too. So when we ask people what would stop them from participating in a program, 64% say if it takes too long to earn a reward, they'll give up. 49% say if they can't use a reward with their first purchase, they probably won't convert. And 64% say that if their rewards are not valuable enough, if they can't see value, again, they will stop participating. So I guess my question is why? Why are shoppers susceptible to this need to do or get things as quickly as possible?
Well, we're all what's known as cognitive misers. So we all have very limited brain power for paying attention to the world and processing information and making decisions. You can't put a number on something like this, but people have guessed, and one researcher guessed based on the sensory neurons firing in the brain in any given second, and he guessed that we're only consciously aware of 0.0004% of everything the brain is doing. Now, it is a guess, but I think all of these guesses say most of what the brain does we're not consciously aware of, because it's very effortful, it takes energy, and we are basically hardwired to conserve energy, both physical and mental, because if you think from an evolutionary point of view, if you're really tired and then a tiger jumps out of a bush, you don't have the energy to deal with it. So we tend to conserve it. Like there was one study that found that if the escalators are working, only 8% of people will walk up the stairs. So we just, you could say we're lazy, but there's a real evolutionary reason for it. And then especially today, we're kind of bombarded with information and choice, and it's very difficult to pass it and to think it through carefully. And so we just need things to be as simple and convenient as possible, because we don't want to use that energy. We'd never get anything done if we thought through everything carefully. And we also have a bias towards the here and now. It's called the present bias. Things just feel more kind of real. Versus things in the future feel abstract and far away. If you say, do you want to clean out the shed today or have a roast today, versus which one tomorrow? Most people would have the roast today and the clean out the shed tomorrow, right? And then I think also, again, maybe technology is making us more kind of impulsive and reward-seeking, and also the kind of socio-economic systems. Again, we're looking for fun and rewards.
Thank you for giving me an excuse to have the roast and take the escalator. That's great news. Do you think the value of a reward, so if you were to redeem it now versus same reward, same kind of benefit behind it, if you were to claim it now, or if you were to maybe sit on it for a week, do you think the perception of the value of that reward changes at all? Over time, could it start to feel more valuable, or is it actually more valuable if you use it there and then?
That's really interesting. I mean, people do value stuff here and now more. That's what Klarna is all about, really. Get something now and worry about the cost later. Having said that, people do also value things that they've put investment into. I mean, this is all good things come to those who wait. You're excited about a movie that comes out and you have to wait, and then you value it more because you had to wait for it. So I think there is something to be said for that as well. I guess it depends on your strategic goals, really.
That's super interesting. You're right. You do often, especially with a purchase, there are your everyday ones, but then there are often things you save up for as well. So perhaps that kind of delayed gratification has a role to play as well.
You can also give people gratification that's not the thing. So like a fun game or experience, or spin the roulette wheel to get a prize or something.
Yes, that's true. And we're seeing a lot of people add that into their loyalty program tiers as well. So if you're in the third tier versus the first tier, you get 5 entries into the competition for that month and things like that. So you kind of, it's happening in the background, but it's kind of, you've got that whole month going, I got more entries. I might actually win this time. Which is a bit difficult. The huge trend for raffles at the moment to buy tickets to own a big house and things like that. It's amazing how many people are getting involved in those.
Well, that's really interesting as well, because it's again, it's about concreteness. So it might not be something today, but it's a real thing. It's a lot easier to relate to a mansion with a pool than don't get me wrong, £5 million prize would be nice, but it's more kind of abstract versus a house you can visualize. So those kind of rewards do better as well, I think. That's
really interesting. So if a brand is putting together kind of a tier structure, then thinking about being very clear about what the thing is. So sort of elusive value is probably not going to work so well as this is the item that you would unlock. We're going to do a prize draw. This is what you can win. Don't just leave it loose at prize draw.
So kind of points are not really very motivating or relatable to people, but prizes are. So absolutely. It's more about you'll get this cup of coffee or free bag or whatever it might be, rather than you can collect points.
That's really interesting. I've been doing a lot of audits of loyalty programs recently, and one mistake we see brands making a lot is they tell you exactly how to get the points, but they don't tell you really what it translates into. It just says fantastic prizes, rewards, this kind of thing. And or it gives you a value. So your points will translate into, you'll get this many points per pound you spend, or it will translate into this many pounds of reward. But as a consumer, I don't want to really sit there and do the maths. I want you to literally put on the page, you can redeem it for a £10 voucher, $10 voucher. You can redeem it for this item. You can have free shipping. When you actually put the things in front of people, rather than a bit of a vague calculation,
you're
going to see higher conversion.
People don't do maths.
It's not just
even
me
when
then.
even if they have time to do it, people just don't like to think, really, any of us.
So a really clearly laid out set of benefits will always work better.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. Where are we? We're in April, so we're actually probably not too far ahead of starting to talk about Black Friday, terrifyingly. It comes around very quickly every year. And one question we always like to ask in our research is around how people are going to shop during a Black Friday period. Now, last year we were quite surprised to see that, when you think of Black Friday, you often rewind 10 to 15 years where people were fighting in the aisles trying to grab the last toaster, TV, all of the big ticket items. Today, Black Friday seems to be a bit more of an opportunity to either replenish what you typically buy from a brand that you already know, or to perhaps try something new from that brand that you haven't been able to get before. It was a bit of a stretch financially, or you haven't run out of the old one yet, that kind of thing. So it's really interesting to see people moving away from exploring new products and brands and people staying where they're comfortable over Black Friday. In terms of the stats, 44% of people say they're more likely to try new brands over the sales peak, but 60% are more likely to buy from brands they've bought from before, and also 60% are more likely to visit stores where they have points or rewards they can redeem. What do you think is behind that shift? Why are consumers playing it safe during big sales when it used to be the time to go crazy?
I think people are playing it safer everywhere with everything more and more. You even see this in financial services. People are buying more premium bonds, for instance, than they used to. People investing in things like gold more, generally a very safe store of wealth. And that's because, again, things are quite chaotic, and it's this terror management theory, again, when things are uncertain and when there's unpredictability and fear, people tend to go for what they're familiar with and what feels safe. They have inertia, they have the status quo bias, but essentially they stick with what they know, and they're less open to taking risks and to trying new things because there's more of a feeling that they might get burnt. I think that might be related as well to people, I think, are getting more skeptical. As you mentioned Black Friday, I think people are more aware that they're not necessarily great deals, actually, and there might be a bit of, jiggery-pokery with prices around Black Friday to make them feel like good deals. But that's just a broader kind of, again, social cynicism that's going on. But again, there's opportunities there, of course, for brands to build those relationships and build on commitments.
I think that's really interesting. I think consumers are getting more skeptical, and I think that's where we're seeing brands offer things like exclusive access to the Black Friday sale early, or actually you can only log into the site if you have a Black Friday password that only members have. And that kind of, it's not just the discount, it's something a bit more special around the edges as well. So I think we saw a lot more of that last year. I expect we will this year as well.
Yeah.
Do you think consumers trust brands?
I don't think anyone trusts anyone anymore. Yeah, I mean, kind of implicitly, you trust that the brand is going to deliver on what it's said it will, especially if you bought from them before. And people are, I joke, but people are, their default is to trust and to believe until they have a reason not to. I think just the difficult thing is to earn that trust in the first place. I think that's what's getting increasingly difficult.
I agree, and I think data is probably where we see it the most. I did have a stat, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But what you do with the consumer's data is really, really important in that trust conversation. You know, we've seen data leaks. It's not a good look, and I think especially loyalty programs motivate and encourage consumers to share their data and their information. And if it's not used, if it's not safeguarded,
Yeah.
that's problem number one. But if it's not used effectively, it's problem number two. You know,
Yeah.
you asked me for this. You wanted to know these things about me.
Yeah.
You're not personalizing my experience based on what I've told you. You're not using my data very effectively.
Yeah.
So why should I give you
Exactly.
any more? Why should I not take it back? Or, you know, and I think that is where the biggest piece of the trust puzzle is for e-commerce brands.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the main kind of quick wins I recommend to brands from a behavioral science point of view is the WIFM principle, what's in it for me. Usually when people and brands send out messages, they're sending it from the brand's perspective. And it's like your email should start with you, they shouldn't start with we. So what's in it for me for sharing the data?
Yeah.
And then tied with that is also, I like to say, don't be creepy. And there was actually a study on creepiness, and they had people rate occupations by creepiness. Any guesses what the creepiest job was? It wasn't behavioral scientists.
Marketing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
sounds
what lots
right.
of people say. No, even creepier than taxidermist was clown, which I don't know if that's an occupation, clown. But and I think it's because a clown is a symbol of chaos. You never know what's coming next. Like they throw a bucket of water and it's actually confetti and all of that. So if you're using people's data, just don't be ambiguous about what you're doing, because people need to know what's coming next, because if there's ambiguity, they just assume the worst generally. So even if you tell people, hey, we're using your data to influence you or send you these messages, that's okay as long as you're upfront about it.
Yeah, and then you follow through on the promise.
Yes,
You know, don't tell me you're going to
WIFM.
send me personalised emails and then send me the same thing you're sending everyone else.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it always makes me laugh when people say, oh, I've been followed around the internet again. And it's like, yeah, sorry, that's marketing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Industries, I think, is a really interesting thing to look at. So we asked shoppers how likely they would be to join programs in different verticals. 55% said they'd be likely to join a beauty loyalty program. Probably unsurprisingly, 40% of men versus 65% of women. 64% of people said they would join health and wellness programs, 61% fashion. Again, interestingly, pretty much the same across men and women there. 56% said they would join a pets loyalty program, and we've definitely seen that booming over the last couple of years. And we're seeing lots of people do really nice things like address the pet in the email, celebrate the pet's birthday rather than the owner's. 55% home and garden, but the one I thought was very interesting was 83% of people said that they would join a food and drink loyalty program. And I wonder what you make of that. Is that what you would expect? What do you think makes different industries more suitable for consumers when it comes to a loyalty program?
I think there are different drivers for loyalty. There is, I think with food and beverage, it might just be the frequency of purchase and the habitual nature of the purchase lends itself very well to loyalty schemes, and you get a little reward every time, so it's more reinforcing the more often you do it. Whereas for something else, you know, a mortgage company is probably not ever going to have a loyalty scheme because you only go there once or once every few years. So there's the frequency aspect. There's also some industries, I think, an identity and status aspect. It's more about having a relationship and wanting to feel part of the club. So you'd probably see that more in, you know, beauty and fashion, like you said. And then maybe some industries, their consumer base is just more kind of leaning more towards loyalty than others. So I think in general, not everyone, of course, but I think women are a bit more likely to use loyalty schemes. Is that something you've seen in your data?
Getting less so.
Okay.
Traditionally, historically, I'd say yes, but I think it's leveling out a bit now.
Okay, all right, okay. But still, I mean, maybe there's certain personas in certain industries that are more kind of relationship focused or more into loyalty, or for some industries, as I said, being more part of a club. So yeah, I would say frequency is one thing, but also it's kind of certain motives and personas are driving it in other places.
Do you think there's also an element of consumers are more savvy? So I'm thinking specifically of probably beauty, pets, and food and beverage.
Yeah.
We are a lot more conscious of what we put on our skin.
Yeah.
We're a lot more conscious of what we ingest.
Yeah.
We probably care very much about what our dogs and puppies are ingesting. I think we're maybe a little more aware and conscious of the quality of things that we're using. And perhaps that then ties to some industries just being better suited to that loyalty and repeat purchase element once you found one that you do trust, that has proven to you that they are sustainable, clean, or whatever it is that you're most passionate about, then your propensity to be loyal will increase.
That's very true, yeah. I mean, it took us ages to settle on Evo as our shampoo and conditioner brand at home, and now that's all we use because it doesn't have any of these weird chemicals in it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. That is all we have time for, I'm afraid. Patrick, if people want to follow you or read any of your books, what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
There's my website, patrickfagan.co.uk, where I have a newsletter, but also I'm Patrick Fagan. I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there.